Marvel, DC, Image, Valiant, and more make up the stories and legends we read in comic books, watch in movies, and discuss for hours on end with friends and strangers alike. But comics don't just create stories. They create communities, like the culture of fans, writers, creators, and distributors in the Oklahoma area. This is Oklahoma Comics.
My first comic book that I remember getting. The comic book was Jack Flag. He was a Marvel character, super obscure, nobody remembers him. And I loved the art in it, I loved the look, and of course as a kid I was into superheroes. And then I just read them when I can get my hands on them. They just popped to me, you know? I think Tulsa's becoming really good, has become a really good spot for kind of nerd culture, geek culture, and comic book culture. Like, more and more people are coming out, I should say, of the nerd closet, and Tulsa's become a really good spot for it. There are more and more writers I've noticed coming from Oklahoma. I mean, heck, Equinox, which I, am very happy to say I was there for the beginning of it. My friend Tommy, I've gotten to see him go from some guy who just had a couple ideas, and now he's getting stuff published all the time.
Tommy Brownell. I've been a fan of comic books. I've always liked superheroes, stuff like that, toys, cartoons. I got into comic books about 7th grade. Saw X-Men, Uncanny X-Men on the grocery store shelves, which you really can't do anymore because they're not really at grocery stores anymore. Picked them up, was completely hooked. And it was right at the middle of one of the most convoluted times in like the book's history, but it was so interesting. I wanted to unravel everything. And then around 2008, I had finished my first comic book script. I decided I wanted to try my hand at making a comic book. Didn't know what to do with it after I finished the script because I'm not an artist, I'm a writer. Met some like-minded folks up in the Tulsa area, and we kind of figured it out together. None of us do it professionally. We're basically hobbyists, but that's where we're at. So, first thing we published, I had a short story in Equinox Comics #1. It was a kind of an anthology. It was actually the first appearance of Rachel Strand. She was the backup story. I work all my Rachel Strand stories have been with Johnny Johnson. He's the artist. Become a really good friend of mine out of Sapulpa. We took an idea that Equinox had, and we kind of ran with it. We tore it down, built it back up into something we could work with. This is actually the newest thing we've released, and this was not an Equinox production, but it was with a lot of the guys that I became friends with through there. It's Tricks and Treats. It's a horror anthology. The story I wrote leads off the book. It's called More Than They Can Chew. And it's a story about some hapless travelers getting caught between Bigfoot and a bunch of psycho hillbilly cannibals. And I was super pleased with this because my friend Johnny and another really good friend of mine, Jason, they shared the art on it. My friend Ben colored it. He's also the publisher. And then I wrote and lettered it. And so I got to work with my best friends in the comic book industry on this story, and in my opinion, it came out really great. I'm a big fan of movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Wrong Turn, stuff like that, like the Psycho Hillbilly Cannibals as a thing, and the idea of putting Bigfoot between them was fun. And I was able to incorporate a little bit of a Cherokee Nation mythology into both Bigfoot and the Psycho Hillbilly Cannibals. Took a little artistic license with it, but that's where some of the inspiration came from. Man, I just want to make comics with my friends, and I want to get them out there, and hopefully somebody really likes it. And we have people who they'll ask about the new Rachel stuff at conventions and everything. But yeah, I mean that's my goal, man. Is for me, I don't have a realistic expectation this is ever going to be a career, but it's a passion that I want to get work out there, keep stacking it up, telling stories with artists that I respect and love working with, and I go from there.
What got me into comic books in the first place is, honestly, if you rewound time like a year or two ago, I had no interest in comics. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to make TV shows. That's part of the reasons why I enrolled here at RSU, was so that I could put a team together, make some independently made stuff, get my name out there. But as time and time went on, I realized that I had a bit of a knack for drawing, and the more I started getting into the anime scene and the manga scene, I realized that it was actually more doable for me to work with pen and paper. So instead of getting a whole team together, I could basically do my illustrations just myself, and I could help produce it with just one other person. So part of the reason I went over to comics was the convenience of it, because I knew I had the talent for it, and I knew that with the right people I could branch it out. But as time and time went on, I ended up loving it even more and more. I ended up appreciating the artwork, the storytelling, just the overall atmosphere. It was just a completely changing experience. Now, this is issue 1 of the comic, and the first issue this is all the first chapter. I ended up with 61 pages. The comic is called Viva. It's a comic set in 1995 Mexico, and the story is about a 16-year-old boy named Sonny, who wants to be a luchador, and his adopted brother Aaron, who accompanies him along his adventures. And the big fella over here, his name is Ola. He's the mentor, the wise old instructor. Now, what happens is he ends up staying in this little village for most of his life, but when his village comes under attack from gangsters and cartel members, that's what really pushes him to go and chase his dream of being a really strong fighter. And it's this huge race. The first big saga of the comic is them going to this thing called the El Dorado tournament. There's a lot of great characters, there's a lot of great stories, and I can't wait to share it with the world, if I'm being honest.
Nagel, and this store has been open for a little over a year, and the first store in Pryor opened 3.5 years ago. I used to be a teacher at Spartan School Aeronautics, and I taught in the oil field, and I taught about the oil fields, refineries, and power wire harnessing for Boeing 787s. And I worked with radiation in the oil field and did magnetic particle testing. And after several years, I just kind of got tired of teenagers. And my wife came to me and was like, hey, how would you like to open your own business on stuff that you are interested in? And I was like, okay, let's give it a shot. So basically what happened was we went through all the financial backing that we needed, everything that we needed to be involved in, and we slowly did it ourselves. We met with a guy to help us out to get us started, and then we built both of them from the ground up. Just had product brought in and then relied on trades and stuff, and then we've just built it since then to records and comic books and everything else that you see in the store. Generally on the wall over here is where I like to put newer comics and stuff, new stuff that comes out like every week or every couple weeks. So Rick and Morty is super hot right now. Everybody loves Rick and Morty. I don't know anybody that hates Rick and Morty. So the Rick and Morty series that's been going for several months now is on issue 59, and it just keeps gaining popularity. Like, I go through Rick and Morty comics pretty consistently. The latest Punisher series that's out, probably the most popular one really is the part 2 of White Knight, and this is a whole new section, and in the White Knight series, it actually is made to look like Joker is the victim, and he takes Batman to trial. In the first series of issues, he takes Batman to trial, and the whole entire city and every villain shows up and shows that Joker is actually the victim, and Batman was the instigator the whole time on everything. And that was a really cool short series run. So on this side, I like to put stuff that comes in sequential order when it comes in. So if somebody brings me a series of comics that goes in a certain number, I like to bind them together so that way people don't have to hunt for certain things and certain issues. Like if they just want to get a storyline, then I put it all together over here. So these are all our used comics. When people bring them in, I do work and I price each one, but just start here and you go through the A's all the way to the Z's, but then you have your cheap, I have a cheap like quarter comic section, which is mostly all your Valiants and Images and stuff, or Malibu comics. And then I have new back issues of newer comics as well, and then used graphic novels and stuff as well. People bring me stuff in, it's in bad shape, I don't take it. I try to only keep stuff that is above a 5 or a 6 to an 8, somewhere in there. I mean, you're never going to see a 10. A 10 is literally, it's been printed and somebody never touched it and put it into a sleeve with a backing board and then sent it straight to CGC. So,
The comic book. It's a rich tapestry of imagination and innovation in storytelling. As it was with the stories of old, comic books are passed down from generation to generation and continue to inspire new minds every day. This culture is vast, spanning the entire globe, but sometimes all you have to do is look for it in your own backyard. This is Oklahoma Comics.